If home is where the heart is, mine needs a pacemaker. I'm Ian Calloway, 38 years old, residential architect, and apparently the kind of husband who gets introduced as not a real man at dinner parties. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. It started 3 months ago when Marina began dressing like she was auditioning for a reality show. My wife of 7 years suddenly discovered push-up bras and skirts that could double as belts. "I'm exploring my feminine energy," she announced, admiring herself in our bedroom mirror. "Your feminine energy has a credit card, apparently," I muttered, watching her peel price tags off another designer outfit. Marina shot me that look, the one that says, "I'm about as exciting as beige paint." "Maybe if you showed some appreciation, Ian, I wouldn't need to find validation elsewhere." Elsewhere. That word should have been a flashing red warning sign, but I was busy designing the Hendersons' dream house and assuming my wife's midlife crisis would pass like a kidney stone. Painful, but temporary. The texts started appearing on our shared iPad during my morning coffee ritual. Marina claimed she was networking with suppliers for the boutique. As a clothing buyer for an upscale shop downtown, she did work with vendors. But these messages had more eggplant emojis than professional correspondence typically requires. "Working late again tonight, babe," became Marina's new catchphrase. She'd breeze through our kitchen in a cloud of expensive perfume, grab her keys, and disappear until after midnight. When she returned, she'd slip into bed smelling like cologne that definitely wasn't mine. My best friend, Rob Zeller, a contractor who'd helped me build half the houses in our neighborhood, noticed the changes during our weekly poker game. "Marina's looking different," he said, dealing cards in my garage, like she's advertising something. "She's finding herself," I replied, studying my hand. Apparently herself was hiding under a lot of expensive fabric. Rob raised an eyebrow. Finding herself or finding someone else? I should have listened to Rob. The man could spot a crooked foundation from 3 blocks away, and my marriage was developing some serious structural issues. The breaking point came at the Morrisons' barbecue last Saturday. Marina arrived fashionably late, wearing a dress that cost more than my truck payment. She immediately gravitated toward Lowell Prewitt, a cocky supplier who drove a restored Camaro and talked like he'd invented testosterone. Lowell was there with his wife Emily, a sharp-tongued legal assistant who looked like she could cross-examine a confession out of a parking meter. While Emily discussed property law with other guests, Marina and Lowell huddled by the pool, whispering and laughing like teenagers. "Your wife seems to enjoy Lowell's company," Emily appeared beside me, her voice carrying the warmth of a tax audit. "They're discussing business," I said, watching Marina touch Lowell's arm for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. "Yes." Emily's smile could have cut glass. "I'm sure they are." Marina's friends Gina and Tia flanked us like gossip vultures. Gina, a real estate agent with the subtlety of a car alarm, leaned in conspiratorially. "Marina's been glowing lately," she said. "New workout routine?" Tia, who managed a spa and treated other people's drama like a subscription service, giggled. "Must be all that extra energy she's been talking about. You know, the kind she gets from spending time with real men." The conversation faded as Marina approached with Lowell in tow. She slipped her arm through his with the casual intimacy of someone who'd done it before. "Ian, honey, you should hear Lowell's stories about his construction projects. He's so much more hands-on than most men." Lowell's grin was pure predator. "Your wife appreciates a man who knows how to handle his tools." I felt my architect's precision cracking. "I handle tools every day, Lowell. I just prefer blueprints to brute force." "Blueprints don't build houses," Lowell said, squeezing Marina's hand. "Sometimes you need a man who's not afraid to get dirty." Marina practically purred. Exactly. There's something so attractive about a man who takes charge, who doesn't need instructions for everything. The group fell silent. Even Gina looked uncomfortable. Emily's face had gone stone cold, and Rob stepped closer to my side. "Well," I said, setting down my beer, "this has been educational." I walked away, leaving my wife draped over another man like a cheap suit. Behind me, I heard Marina's voice, bright and carrying. "Ian's always been more of a thinker than a doer. Some women need more than that." Rob found me in the Morrisons' kitchen, staring out the window at my wife and her new favorite person. "You okay, buddy?" "Define okay," I said. "If you mean watching my marriage implode at a suburban barbecue, then I'm fantastic. What are you going to do?" I watched Marina laugh at something Lowell whispered in her ear while Emily stood alone by the grill, her jaw tight with controlled fury. "I'm going to do what I do best, Rob. I'm going to make a plan." Monday morning brought clarity along with my coffee. While Marina showered, singing off-key and using twice her normal amount of body wash, I opened our shared iPad and began documenting my wife's new hobby. The evidence was overwhelming. Months of messages between Marina and Lowell, detailing everything from hotel room numbers to explicit commentary on my shortcomings as a husband. My personal favorite: Ian's idea of passion is color coordinating his drafting pencils. "You make me feel like a real woman." At least my wife was literate. In emojis. I screenshotted everything, uploaded it to a secure cloud folder, and called my lawyer. Margaret Klein had handled the legal work when I bought our house before marrying Marina. She was 60-something, tough as rebar, and had the bedside manner of a root canal. "Ian Calloway," she said when I walked into her office. "You look like someone stole your favorite calculator. What's the damage?" I handed her a printed stack of Marina's greatest hits. "My wife's been networking, very thoroughly." Margaret flipped through the pages, her expression never changing. "How long?" 4 months that I can prove. Probably longer." "Assets?" "House is mine, bought before marriage. 2 cars, both in my name. Joint checking account with about 12 grand. She's got her boutique job. I've got my firm." Margaret nodded. "Kids?" "Thank God, no." "This is pretty straightforward, Ian. Oregon's a no-fault state, but adultery can affect spousal support. With this evidence and your premarital assets, you'll walk away clean." "I don't want to just walk away clean, Margaret. I want justice." Her smile was sharp enough to cut contracts. "Now, you're speaking my language." That afternoon, Rob found me in my home office, surrounded by printed messages and legal documents. "You look like you're planning to invade a small country," he said. "Something like that. I need a favor, Rob. Can you reach out to Emily Prewitt?" "Lowell's wife? Why?" "Because she deserves to know what her husband's been doing. And because misery loves company, but revenge loves allies." Rob grinned. "Now you're talking. What's the plan?" I spread out my documentation like architectural blueprints. Marina thinks I'm weak because I plan instead of acting. She's about to learn that planning is just another word for preparation. Emily Prewitt agreed to meet us at a coffee shop downtown. She arrived looking like she'd rather be anywhere else, her dark hair pulled back severely and her expression promising swift and painful justice to whoever had wasted her time. "You said this was about my husband," she said without preamble. I slid a folder across the table. "I'm sorry you have to see this, Emily, but you deserve to know." She opened the folder and went very still. Her eyes moved across the printed messages, her face cycling through disbelief, anger, and something that looked like relief. 4 months, she said finally. "That I can prove. I'm guessing you suspected?" Emily's laugh was bitter. "Lowell's been working late, going to conferences that don't exist and buying cologne he thinks makes him irresistible. I'm a legal assistant, Mr. Calloway. I investigate things for a living." "What do you want to do about it?" Emily closed the folder and looked at me with the focused intensity of a laser sight. I want to destroy them both, professionally, socially, and financially, in that order. Then we should probably coordinate our efforts. Margaret had drawn up divorce papers for both Emily and me. The plan was simple: public humiliation, followed by legal annihilation. Marina and Lowell thought they were having a secret affair. They were about to discover that secrets have a way of becoming very public very quickly. Friday night, Marina announced she was having dinner with Gina and Tia at Chez Laurent, an expensive restaurant downtown. "Girls' night," she said, kissing my cheek with lips that tasted like lies. "Have fun," I said. "I'll probably just stay home and color coordinate my pencils." An hour later, Rob, Emily, Margaret, and I walked into Chez Laurent. Marina and Lowell were at a corner table, feeding each other appetizers like teenagers. Gina and Tia were nowhere to be seen. "Girls' night looks different than I remember," I said, approaching their table. Marina went white. Lowell started to stand, but Emily's hand on his shoulder pushed him back down. "Sit," Emily said. "We need to talk." The restaurant's ambient noise seemed to fade as other diners sensed drama. Margaret stepped forward, her briefcase in hand like a weapon. "Marina Calloway and Lowell Prewitt, you're both being served with divorce papers. Mr. Calloway and Mrs. Prewitt are citing adultery and requesting immediate asset protection." Marina's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Ian, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" I pulled out my phone and began reading. "Explain how Lowell makes you feel like a real woman. Explain how you can't wait to leave your boring husband. Or maybe explain how you've been using our joint account to pay for hotel rooms." Lowell found his voice. "Now wait just a minute." Emily slapped him. Hard. The sound echoed through the restaurant like a gunshot. 12 years of marriage," Emily said, her voice calm. 12 years, and you throw it away for this?" Marina started crying, mascara running down her cheeks in dark rivers. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. We were going to tell you both." "When?" I asked. "After you'd finished spending my money on your midlife crisis?" Other diners were openly staring now. Someone had their phone out, recording. Marina noticed and tried to hide her face. "Please, Ian. Not here. Not like this." "You made it public when you brought him here," I said. "You made it public when you introduced him as more of a man than your husband. You made it public when you decided our marriage was worth less than your ego." Margaret handed Marina an envelope. "Divorce papers. Mr. Calloway is requesting immediate separation of assets and spousal support based on adultery. You have 30 days to respond." Emily stood, her own envelope in hand. "Lowell, you have the same 30 days. I'll be staying at my sister's. When I come back for my things, I expect you to be gone." We left them sitting there, Marina sobbing into her appetizer while Lowell stared at the table like it held answers. As we reached the door, I heard Marina call my name. I turned back. She was standing now, mascara-stained and desperate. "Ian, please. I love you. This was just a mistake, a stupid mistake. We can fix this." The entire restaurant was watching now. This was the moment Marina had created, the public stage she'd chosen for her performance. "You're right, Marina. This was a mistake, but not the one you think." I walked out, leaving my wife and her lover to face the consequences of their choices. In the parking lot, Emily was leaning against Margaret's car, looking exhausted. "How do you feel?" Rob asked. "Like I just demolished a building that was already falling down," I said. "But we're not finished yet." Emily straightened. "What's next?" I looked back at the restaurant, where Marina and Lowell were probably trying to figure out how to salvage their evening. Now we make sure everyone knows exactly who they really are. The news of our public restaurant confrontation spread through our social circle like wildfire in August. By Monday morning, my phone was buzzing with messages from neighbors, co-workers, and acquaintances who'd heard various versions of the story. Marina had apparently spent the weekend calling everyone we knew, trying to control the narrative. According to Gina, who called Rob to get the real story, Marina was claiming I'd ambushed her and that the whole thing was a misunderstanding. "She's telling people you hired a private investigator to stalk her," Rob reported, sitting in my kitchen while I made coffee. "And that Emily's just jealous because Lowell was helping Marina with business connections." "Business connections," I repeated. "Is that what they're calling it?" My phone rang. Margaret Klein, sounding pleased with herself. "Good news, Ian. The house is secure. Since you owned it before marriage and Marina never contributed to the mortgage, it's entirely yours. I've also frozen the joint accounts pending asset division." "What about Marina?" "She's staying at Gina's, apparently, and she's hired David Brennan as her attorney." I knew Brennan by reputation. Expensive, flashy, and about as ethical as a used car salesman. Should I be worried? About David Brennan? Please. I was practicing law when he was still figuring out which end of a briefcase opens. But Ian, there's something else. Marina's claiming you were emotionally abusive, and that she sought comfort elsewhere because of your neglect. I felt my architect's precision turning into engineer's cold fury. Emotionally abusive. It's a common tactic when the evidence is overwhelming. Paint the innocent spouse as the real villain. Don't let it get to you. But it did get to me. By Wednesday, Marina's version of events had reached my workplace. Mr. Halloran, my boss, called me into his office with the uncomfortable expression of someone about to discuss hemorrhoids. "Ian, I need to ask about this situation with your wife." "There are rumors." "There are facts," I interrupted. "Marina had an affair. I have documentation. We're getting divorced." "Yes, but she's claiming you were controlling, that you monitored her communications and isolated her from friends." I set my phone on his desk and showed him one of Marina's messages to Lowell. "Does this look like the communication of someone being isolated and controlled?" Halloran read the message, his face reddening. "Oh, well, that's explicit. Marina's trying to rewrite history because the truth makes her look bad. I documented evidence of adultery. That's not abuse, it's preparation for divorce court." But the damage was spreading. Thursday evening, I was working in my garage when Tia appeared at the door, looking like she'd rather be having dental surgery. "Ian, can we talk?" I gestured to a lawn chair. "Sure. Come to deliver Marina's latest version of events?" Tia flinched. "She's really hurt, Ian. She says you were never there for her, that you cared more about your work than your marriage." "Interesting theory. Did she mention the 4 months she spent texting Lowell about how much better he was in bed than me?" "She says those messages were taken out of context." I pulled out my phone and began reading. Context. "Lowell makes me feel alive in ways Ian never could. When he touches me, I remember what it's like to be desired by a real man." What context makes that acceptable, Tia? She stood up quickly. "I should go." "You should. And Tia? Next time Marina wants to send a messenger, tell her to save her breath. I've heard enough of her stories." Friday brought the first real counterattack. I arrived home to find Marina's car in my driveway, and Marina herself sitting on my front porch, looking like a magazine ad for wounded femininity. "We need to talk," she said as I approached. "We need to do a lot of things. Talking isn't one of them." Marina stood, smoothing her dress. A new one, I noticed, probably charged to the credit card I'd already canceled. "Ian, please. I know you're angry, but this doesn't have to destroy everything." "You already destroyed everything. I'm just cleaning up the debris." She followed me to the front door. "I made a mistake. People make mistakes. But we can fix this if you'll just stop being so stubborn." I turned to face her. "Stubborn? Marina, you spent 4 months screwing another man and telling him how inadequate I was. You introduced him to our friends as more of a man than me. You used our money to pay for hotel rooms. What part of that was a mistake?" Marina's carefully composed expression cracked. "You were never there for me." You worked all the time. You never wanted to go out. You treated me like a roommate instead of a wife. So you decided to find someone who treated you like a whore instead? The slap came fast, but I caught her wrist before it connected. Don't, I said quietly. You've done enough damage. Marina jerked her hand away, tears starting. I love you, Ian. I've always loved you. Lowell was just... He made me feel special. You want to feel special? Try taking responsibility for your choices. What do you want from me? You want me to grovel? Fine, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I made stupid decisions. I'm sorry I ever met Lowell Prewitt. I unlocked my front door. I don't want anything from you, Marina. That's the point. She grabbed my arm. Please, Ian, don't throw away 7 years of marriage over one mistake. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd married, who'd promised to love and honor me, who'd shared my bed and my dreams and my bank account. The woman who'd decided I wasn't enough and went shopping for an upgrade. One mistake, I repeated. Marina, you didn't make one mistake. You made hundreds of them. Every text, every lie, every time you came home smelling like his cologne. Every time you looked me in the eye and told me you were working late. Every time you spent our money on lingerie you wore for him. Marina was crying openly now, mascara running in familiar dark streams. I can change. I can be better. I can be the wife you deserve. The wife I deserved wouldn't have needed to change. I went inside and closed the door, leaving Marina on the porch with her tears and her excuses. Through the window, I watched her sit back down on the steps, shoulders shaking. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Lowell tried the same approach. Showed up at my office with flowers and apologies. I had security escort him out. I replied, They're getting desperate. Good. Desperate people make mistakes. She was right, and Marina's next mistake was about to be her biggest one yet. Saturday morning brought an unexpected visitor. I was reviewing house plans in my kitchen when someone started pounding on my front door like they were trying to break it down. Lowell Prewitt stood on my porch, looking like he'd slept in his clothes and shaved with a butter knife. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, and his expensive cologne couldn't quite mask the smell of stale beer. We need to talk, Calloway. No, we don't. I started to close the door, but Lowell's foot blocked it. You think you're real smart, don't you? Humiliating Marina and Emily like that, destroying people's lives over a little fun. A little fun? I opened the door wider, letting him see my full expression. Is that what you call sleeping with my wife? Lowell stepped closer, trying to use his size to intimidate me. He had 3 inches and 30 pounds on me, all of it muscle from his construction work. Marina's a grown woman. She made her own choices. You're right. She chose to cheat on her husband with a married man. How's that working out for both of you? His face darkened. You cost me my marriage, you smug bastard. I didn't cost you anything. You threw it away for cheap thrills with another man's wife. Lowell's hands clenched into fists. You think you're better than me because you wear a tie to work and draw pretty pictures? You're nothing, Calloway. Marina told me all about you, how boring you are, how you can't satisfy a real woman. The words hit like physical blows, but I kept my voice level. And yet she married me, not you. That must sting. She would have left you eventually. I just helped her realize what she was missing. What she was missing, I repeated. You mean a man who'd wrecked 2 marriages for a few months of hotel room closeness? Lowell stepped onto my porch, his bulk filling the doorway. You want to keep talking? Or you want to settle this like men? Like men? Lowell, real men don't threaten people on their own property. Real men don't sleep with other men's wives. And real men don't show up drunk at 9 in the morning making threats they can't back up. His swing came fast but sloppy. I stepped back, and his fist hit the door frame hard enough to split his knuckles. Lowell howled, clutching his hand. Get off my property, I said, before I call the police and have you arrested for assault and trespassing. Lowell cradled his bleeding hand against his chest. This isn't over, Calloway. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet." He stumbled back to his Camaro, fumbling with the keys while trying to wrap his injured hand in a dirty rag from his back seat. I watched him drive away, weaving slightly, and immediately called Margaret Klein. "He threatened you?" Margaret's voice was sharp with interest. "Tried to punch me, actually. Missed and hit my doorframe." "Perfect. I'll file for a restraining order this afternoon. Any witnesses?" I looked across the street, where Mrs. Henderson was pretending to water plants while obviously listening to everything. Probably half the neighborhood. "Even better. Ian, this is exactly what we needed. Lowell just proved he's unstable and potentially violent. Emily will be thrilled." She was right. When I called Emily to warn her about Lowell's state of mind, she sounded grimly satisfied. "He's been calling me all week, alternating between apologies and threats. I've been documenting everything." "What kind of threats?" "The usual. He'll ruin my career, make sure no one believes me, take everything I have. Standard abuser playbook." "Are you safe?" "I'm staying at my sister's, and she's married to a cop. Lowell's stupid, but he's not suicidal." Monday brought news that Marina had been fired from the boutique. According to Gina, who called Rob with barely contained glee, Marina's boss had discovered she'd been using company time and resources to conduct her affair. Apparently, she was charging personal expenses to the business account, Rob reported. Hotel rooms, dinners, even lingerie. Her boss found out when the accountant flagged unusual charges. "How much?" $3,000 over 4 months. They're considering pressing charges for embezzlement." I felt a cold satisfaction settle in my chest. Marina wasn't just losing her marriage, she was losing everything. Tuesday evening, I was working late in my home office when my security system chimed. The cameras I'd installed after Lowell's visit showed Marina walking up my driveway, but she wasn't alone. Tia was with her, along with a man I didn't recognize. They knocked on my door with the polite persistence of Jehovah's Witnesses. I ignored them. They knocked again, longer this time. My phone rang. "Marina." "Ian, please open the door. We just want to talk." "There's nothing to talk about. I brought a mediator, someone neutral who can help us work this out." I looked at the camera feed. The stranger was wearing a cheap suit and had the oily confidence of a used car salesman. "Who is he?" "A counselor, someone who specializes in marriage repair." "Marina, we're not repairing anything. We're getting divorced. Please, Ian, just 5 minutes. If you don't want to save our marriage, at least help me understand what I did wrong." The manipulation was so obvious it was almost insulting, but I was curious to see what new strategy Marina had devised. I opened the door, keeping the chain lock engaged. "You have 2 minutes." Marina looked terrible. Her usual perfect makeup was minimal, her hair was limp, and she'd lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by jeans and a simple sweater. "Ian, this is Dr. Patterson. He's a licensed therapist who works with couples in crisis." Dr. Patterson stepped forward with a practiced smile. "Mr. Calloway, I understand you're going through a difficult time. Often, when emotions are running high, professional mediation can help both parties find common ground. The common ground is that my wife cheated on me for 4 months. What's to mediate?" "Infidelity is often a symptom of deeper relationship issues," Patterson said smoothly. "Marina has shared her perspective on the marriage, and she's genuinely committed to understanding and addressing the problems that led to this situation." I looked at Marina, who was nodding earnestly. "What problems, exactly?" Marina took a shaky breath. "I know I handled things badly, Ian, but I felt so lonely in our marriage. You worked all the time, you never wanted to be social, you treated me like I was just part of the furniture. So you decided to become part of Lowell's furniture instead?" Tia stepped forward. "Ian, Marina made mistakes, but she's trying to take responsibility. She's lost her job, her friends, her home. Isn't that punishment enough?" "She didn't lose those things as punishment. She lost them as consequences." Dr. Patterson pulled out a business card. Mr. Calloway, I understand your anger, but holding on to resentment will only hurt you in the long run. Marina is willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust. I took the card and examined it. Dr. James Patterson, Marriage and Family Counseling. The address was for a strip mall office between a nail salon and a tax preparer. How much is Marina paying you for this performance, Dr. Patterson? His smile flickered. I don't understand. Sure you do. Marina can't afford a real therapist anymore, so she hired an actor to play one. The question is whether she's paying you with money she stole from her employer or money she borrowed from Tia. Marina's face went white. Ian, please, get off my property, all of you. And Marina, if you show up here again, I'll have you arrested for harassment. I closed the door and watched through the cameras as they retreated to Tia's car. Dr. Patterson was gesticulating angrily while Marina sat in the passenger seat with her head in her hands. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Lowell just tried to break into my apartment. Police arrested him. Thought you should know. I replied, they're both falling apart. Good, let them fall. The restraining order against Lowell was approved on Thursday, the same day Marina's former employer decided to press embezzlement charges. According to Margaret, Marina was looking at possible jail time if convicted, though she'd probably get probation and restitution for a first offense. She's hired David Brennan for the criminal case too, Margaret reported. That's going to cost her at least $50,000, money she doesn't have. Where's she getting it? Tia co-signed a loan, apparently. Marina's burning through friends like kindling. Friday evening brought the final assault. I was grilling dinner on my back patio when my security system lit up like a Christmas tree. Multiple people were approaching my house from different directions. Marina from the front, Lowell from the side yard despite the restraining order, and Gina from the back. They'd coordinated their approach, probably planning to corner me and force some kind of confrontation. Unfortunately for them, I'd spent the week preparing for exactly this scenario. I called 911 first, reporting a restraining order violation and multiple trespassers. Then I activated the security measures I'd installed throughout the property. Lowell reached the back patio first, stumbling through my garden like a drunk rhinoceros. He was clearly intoxicated, his face flushed with alcohol and anger. "Calloway!" he bellowed. "Get out here and face me like a man." I stepped out of the patio door, keeping my phone ready to record. "You're violating a restraining order, Lowell. The police are already on their way." "Screw the police. You ruined my life, you smug bastard." He charged toward me, but I'd positioned a sprinkler system to activate when anyone stepped on the sensor pad I'd installed. Lowell hit the water at full speed, slipped on the wet stones, and went down hard, sliding into my koi pond with a tremendous splash. Marina appeared around the corner of the house just in time to see Lowell surface, sputtering and covered in pond algae. She was dressed in what looked like her last good outfit, her hair and makeup perfect despite everything falling apart around her. "Ian, please," she called out. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." I stayed on the covered part of the patio, safely away from the sprinklers. Gina emerged from the side yard looking nervous. "Ian, just hear Marina out. She's been through hell this week." Hell of her own making. Marina stepped closer, her heels clicking on the wet stones. "I know you hate me right now, but I love you, Ian. I've always loved you. Lowell was a mistake, a stupid, terrible mistake." From the pond, Lowell struggled to his feet, dripping and furious. "A mistake? Marina, you told me you loved me. You said you were going to leave him." Marina spun around, her perfect composure cracking. "I never said that. You're delusional. Bullshit. You said Ian was boring, that he couldn't satisfy you, that you wanted a real man. I was confused. I was going through a midlife crisis." I pulled out my phone and began recording. "This is fascinating. Please continue." Marina turned back to me, tears starting to flow. "Ian, don't listen to him. He pursued me. He pressured me. He made me think our marriage was over." Lowell climbed out of the pond, his expensive clothes ruined. "I pressured you? You're the one who texted me first. You're the one who suggested the hotels. That's not true. I've got the messages, Marina. You want me to read them out loud? Gina stepped between them. Both of you, stop it. This isn't helping anyone. The sound of sirens was getting closer. Marina heard them too and became desperate. Ian, please, before the police get here. I'll do anything. I'll sign whatever papers you want. I'll admit everything was my fault. I'll go to counseling. I'll change completely. Just give me one more chance. I looked at my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, standing in my backyard, pleading with me while her lover dripped pond water and her friend tried to mediate a situation beyond salvaging. Marina, do you know what the difference is between a building that collapses and one that stands? She shook her head, confused by the change of subject. Foundation, I said. A building with a solid foundation can weather storms, earthquakes, even fires. But a building with a cracked foundation will fall down no matter how pretty the facade looks. I don't understand. Our marriage had a cracked foundation. Not because I worked too much or wasn't social enough, but because you never really committed to it. You kept looking for something better, someone more exciting, a different life than the one you chose. The sirens were very close now. Marina was crying openly, her perfect makeup running in the familiar dark streams. That's not true. I committed. I married you. You married the idea of me, the successful architect with the nice house and the stable income, but you never actually wanted me. 2 police cars pulled into my driveway, their lights flashing red and blue against the evening sky. Officers approached from both sides of the house. "Lowell Prewitt," one of them called out. "You're under arrest for violating a restraining order." Lowell tried to run, slipped on the wet stones again, and went down in a tangle of arms and legs. The officers cuffed him while he was still on the ground, reading him his rights while he protested his innocence. Marina watched in horror as they dragged Lowell away. "This is insane! Ian, you can't let them arrest him!" "I didn't arrest him. He arrested himself when he decided to ignore a court order." The lead officer approached me. "Mr. Calloway? I'm Officer Martinez. We'll need a statement about the restraining order violation." "Of course. But first, I want these other 2 people off my property." Martinez looked at Marina and Gina. "Ladies, you need to leave. Now." Marina made one last desperate attempt. "Ian, I love you. I know you don't believe me, but I do. I always have." I looked at her for what I knew would be the last time. "Marina, if this is what you call love, I'd hate to see what you call hate." Officer Martinez escorted them to the front of the house while I gave my statement. Through the window, I watched Marina collapse into Gina's arms, sobbing like her world was ending. It was. The final divorce hearing was scheduled for the following Thursday. Margaret had warned me that Marina might make one last attempt at reconciliation or revenge, depending on her mental state. "Brennan's been trying to negotiate," Margaret reported. "He wants to avoid the public hearing because all your evidence will become part of the court record. Marina's already facing embezzlement charges. She can't afford to have the adultery details made public too." "What's he offering?" "Complete capitulation. Marina waives all claims to assets, accepts full responsibility for the marriage breakdown, and agrees to pay her own legal fees. In exchange for, you don't pursue additional damages and you keep the evidence sealed." I considered this. Marina would lose everything either way, but a sealed settlement would save her from complete public humiliation. It was more mercy than she deserved. "Counteroffer," I said. "She makes a full public apology, admits to the affair and the embezzlement, and then I'll agree to sealed records." Margaret smiled. "You want her to confess publicly before you grant privacy? I want her to take responsibility for her choices in front of everyone she lied to." Wednesday evening, Marina called me directly. She sounded exhausted, her voice hollow and defeated. "Ian, Margaret said you want a public apology." "I want the truth, Marina. For once in this entire mess, I want you to tell the truth." "What truth? That I cheated on you? Everyone already knows that. Everyone knows you got caught. They don't know why you did it, or how long you planned it, or how much you enjoyed hurting me. Silence stretched between us. Finally, Marina spoke, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't enjoy hurting you. Didn't you? All those messages about how much better Lowell was than me, how boring I was, how I couldn't satisfy a real woman. You seemed to enjoy it plenty. I was angry. I felt trapped, like my life was passing me by. Lowell made me feel young and exciting again. So you decided to destroy our marriage instead of talking to me about it. I tried to talk to you, but you were always working, always focused on your projects. I felt invisible. I almost laughed. Marina, you spent 4 months planning and executing an affair. You put more effort into cheating than you ever put into our marriage. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you asking for counseling or separation before you started sleeping with Lowell. Fair would have been you being honest about your feelings instead of lying to my face for months. Fair would have been you taking responsibility instead of blaming me for your choices. Marina was crying again. I know I messed up, Ian. I know I hurt you, but I can't undo it. I can't take back what I did. No, you can't. But you can stop lying about it. Thursday morning, a small crowd gathered outside the courthouse. Word had spread through our social circle that Marina would be making some kind of public statement. Gina and Tia were there, along with several neighbors and even some people from Marina's former workplace. Emily stood beside me, looking grimly satisfied. Lowell was in jail pending his own hearing for violating the restraining order, so he'd miss his lover's final performance. Marina arrived with David Brennan, looking like she'd aged 5 years in the past month. Her expensive clothes were gone, replaced by a simple black dress that made her look like she was attending a funeral. In a way, she was. Margaret had prepared a statement for Marina to read, but she'd insisted on writing her own. She stepped up to the courthouse microphone with shaking hands. My name is Marina Calloway, she began, her voice barely audible. I'm here to take responsibility for my actions and to apologize to the people I've hurt. She paused, looking out at the crowd of faces, some sympathetic, most coldly judgmental. For the past 4 months, I had an affair with Lowell Prewitt. I lied to my husband, my friends, and myself about what I was doing. I told myself that Ian was neglecting me, that our marriage was already over, that I deserved to be happy. Her voice grew stronger, more controlled. But the truth is, I was selfish. I wanted excitement without consequences, passion without responsibility. I wanted to feel young and desirable again, and I didn't care who got hurt in the process. Gina was crying now. Several people in the crowd were recording with their phones. I stole money from my employer to fund my affair. I used company resources for personal expenses. I lied to investigators and tried to cover up what I'd done. Marina looked directly at me for the first time. Ian, you deserved better than what I gave you. You deserved honesty, loyalty, and respect. Instead, I gave you lies, betrayal, and humiliation. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you, and I'm sorry for the marriage I destroyed. She turned to Emily. Emily, I'm sorry for the role I played in destroying your marriage. Lowell made his own choices, but I encouraged them. I knew he was married, and I didn't care. I'm sorry for that. Marina folded the paper and looked out at the crowd one more time. I can't undo what I've done. I can't take back the lies or repair the damage. All I can do is accept the consequences and try to learn from my mistakes. She stepped away from the microphone and walked back to where Brennan was waiting. The crowd began to disperse, some people approaching me with sympathetic words, others simply staring at Marina as she got into Brennan's car. Inside the courthouse, the actual divorce proceeding took less than 10 minutes. Marina waived all claims to assets, accepted full responsibility for the marriage breakdown, and agreed to pay restitution for the embezzlement charges. Judge Morrison, a stern woman in her 60s, looked at Marina with obvious distaste. Mrs. Calloway, I've reviewed the evidence in this case. Your behavior was not only destructive to your marriage but potentially criminal. I'm granting Mr. Calloway's petition for divorce and awarding him full ownership of all marital assets. She banged her gavel once. This marriage is dissolved. Outside the courthouse, Emily and I stood in the afternoon sunshine, officially single for the first time in years. How do you feel? She asked. Like I just finished demolishing a building that was already condemned, I said. Relieved, mostly. Any regrets? I thought about Marina, probably sitting in Brennan's office right now, trying to figure out how to rebuild a life she'd systematically destroyed. I regret that it took me so long to see who she really was, I said. But I don't regret ending it. Emily nodded. Lowell's hearing is next week. His lawyer thinks he'll get 6 months for violating the restraining order. What about you? What's next? Emily's smile was sharp and satisfied. I'm keeping the house, the car, and half of everything else. Lowell's construction business is going to his partner as part of the settlement. He'll be starting over from scratch when he gets out of jail. Sounds like justice. It is justice. We both got exactly what we deserved, freedom from people who never really loved us. My phone buzzed with a text from Rob. Drinks tonight? I'm buying. I showed Emily the message. Want to join us? We're celebrating my return to bachelorhood. I'd like that, she said. But first I have something for you. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $3,000. What's this for? Marina's embezzlement. The money she stole went to hotels and dinners with Lowell. Since I'm getting half of everything he owns, I figured you should get back what she stole from you. I tried to hand the check back. Emily, you don't owe me anything. Keep it. Consider it a divorce present. That evening, Rob, Emily, and I sat in my backyard, drinking beer and watching the sunset. The koi pond had been cleaned, the sprinkler system reset, and the security cameras were recording peacefully. So what now? Rob asked. You going to start dating again? Eventually, I said. But first I'm going to enjoy being single. No drama, no lies, no wondering where my wife is or who she's with. Emily raised her beer bottle. To freedom. To justice, Rob added. To the truth, I said, and to the fact that some buildings are better demolished than renovated. We clinked bottles as the sun set behind my house, not our house, never our house again. 6 months later, Marina was working as a clerk in a discount store across town, living in a studio apartment and paying restitution on her embezzlement charges. Lowell was out of jail but unemployed, his construction business gone, and his reputation destroyed. Gina and Tia had moved on to new drama, new friends, new sources of entertainment. The social circle that had once revolved around Marina's boutique job and expensive tastes had simply evaporated. Emily and I remained friends, occasionally meeting for dinner or drinks to compare notes on our new lives. She'd started dating a detective from her sister's precinct, a quiet man who appreciated her sharp wit and legal mind. As for me, I'd thrown myself back into my work with renewed energy. The Henderson house was finished and featured in a local architecture magazine. My boss had offered me a partnership in the firm, recognizing that my recent experiences had given me a deeper understanding of what made relationships and buildings last. I was designing a house for a young couple, newlyweds, who reminded me of Marina and myself 7 years ago. They were full of plans and dreams, convinced their love could overcome any obstacle. We want something that will last forever, the wife said, showing me pictures of elaborate Victorian mansions. Something beautiful and romantic. Forever is a long time, I replied, sketching a simpler design. Let's focus on building something solid first. You can always add decorative elements later, but you can't fix a bad foundation. They looked disappointed, but they accepted my advice. 6 months later, they sent me a thank you card from their new home, praising the quality of the construction and the thoughtful design. I kept the card on my desk, next to a photo of my house, my solid, well-built, foundation-secure house where I lived alone and peacefully, with no secrets, no lies, and no unwelcome surprises. Marina had taught me an important lesson about architecture and relationships. No matter how beautiful the facade, a structure built on deception will always collapse. The only question is whether you'll be inside when it falls. I'd chosen to get out before the collapse. Marina had chosen to go down with the building. In the end, we'd both gotten exactly what we'd built.